Wind turbines are seen by many as one of the main answers to our future energy needs.
Power of wind.
The wind power industry is moving forward.
The race is on to build more wind farms on land and at sea.
It's a natural resource that's blowing in new ideas for producing energy.
Wind power has quickly been rising as an alternative and green energy source around the world. China's wind power market especially has grown tremendously in the past decade. China currently ranks third in wind power worldwide. Current studies predict that China's wind power capacity could increase tenfold by 2020. Some sources even believe China could use wind for all its power needs in 2030. Whatever the prediction, almost all sources would agree that China's wind power industry is on the rise.
Wind energy is produced through motion. Wind is air in motion. It's caused by uneven heating of the Earth's surface by the sun. Daily wind patterns are an example of this uneven heating.
Wind turbines use blades to collect kinetic energy. The wind flows over the blades, creating a lift that causes them to turn. As the propellers turn, they help rotate the shaft. The turning of the shaft helps power the generator and creates a current. The current is transported down the tower, is transformed to high voltage, and goes on its way to power homes and businesses. The blades of the wind turbines collect kinetic energy, which turns the drive shaft, converting it to mechanical energy, which can be used or converted.
China actually had a windmill plant in the Shanghai region of the Dongdao, which powered some energy for the Shanghai Expo.
Well, in China, because it has a large landmass, the northwest and coastal parts of the country are perfect for this. Wind power can be used both nationally and locally. Homeowners have been known to have wind turbines on their property which power their electricity of their home. However, wind power is better on a larger scale because it can be expensive and many turbines are needed to produce a good amount of electricity.
Installing a wind generator could cost anywhere from $4,000 to $20,000 at home. For commercial purposes, the scale of the wind turbine has to be larger to be productive. Common turbines used nowadays are about 2 megawatts in size, though bigger ones are also available. The cost of installing a 2 megawatt could range anywhere from $1 to $3 million US. The costs are so high because of the many factors involved in installing the turbine. They include cost of construction, transportation costs, setting up transformers, location costs, and maintenance. Cost efficiency can greatly depend on the type of turbine, its location, and the design. Also, an extensive study on the feasibility of the project has to be carried out at the location to measure the wind power and speed, along with its variation in speed.
Although the price of buying, installing, and maintaining wind turbines on a large scale can be quite high, on a home scale it is different. Installing and maintaining a wind turbine can cost $4,000 to $20,000 US. This is a very wide range. So despite the price tag on windmills, there is still a widespread interest because windmills can reduce CO2 emissions substantially while still providing energy. Wind energy is appealing because it provides an alternative choice to finding energy rather than relying so heavily on coal.
The technology is seen throughout the US and there is one large onshore wind farm in China. That farm is Dabencheng Wind Farm, which has the capability to produce 500 megawatts of energy. Wind farms are widely accepted despite the large amount of turbines required to create any substantial amount of energy. In China, though, because of its large landmass and lengthy coastline, it's been able to generate 25.1 gigawatts of energy a year. Behind the US and Germany, China is currently the third largest owner of wind turbines.
The electric power actually produced by the turbines is lowered by the best efficiency of each part of the machine. The blades are only able to take a portion of the wind's energy, the generator loses some of that energy, and so on. Because of this, the most you can possibly get out of the wind's energy is 59%. Compared with the high production levels of coal and nuclear power, both in the 90th percentiles, this is seen as the biggest downfall of wind power. However, wind power is still somewhat efficient because it is a renewable and green energy source.
Wind energy is reliable in the sense that there will always be some form of energy produced. However, how much of it is actually produced truly depends on how much wind there is and how long the wind lasts. A lot of the time when using the energy source, people will find that if the wind doesn't blow strong enough, then there is no other way to produce electricity.
Wind energy doesn't present much of an environmental problem. There are, however, complaints of noise pollution and unsightly wind turbines. Birds and bats present one of the most controversial biological issues related to wind energy because of the many bird and bat deaths wind turbines have caused.
The fact that wind energy is only used to produce electricity, not gas or heating oil. Very little oil goes towards producing electricity, so wind power will not reduce China's dependency on oil. As for coal, a study at Beijing's Tsinghua University discovered that many areas, especially northern and western parts of the country, could generate energy at about 6 to 8 cents per kilowatt per hour, which means that 6.96 kilowatts could be generated annually at a profit, which could, in theory, replace coal.
However, this goal is a bit out of reach at this time because China currently uses coal for 80% of its energy needs, while wind power accounts for just 1%.
Wind energy is in some ways good for China, but in also in some ways bad for China. Wind energy is good for China because it allows China to find an alternative energy source, rather than relying so heavily on their typical energy source, which is coal. China is big enough to facilitate the installment of windmills. However, wind power is not a good enough and not a reliable enough resource for China because wind at times can be very unreliable and unpredictable. If it is not windy outside, then the amount of energy produced will obviously be lower. China, as I said before, is a big country and uses a lot of energy, and although wind energy may replace the need for coal energy, it is still a small percentage that is replaced. A study at Harvard and Tsinghua University said that there is a lot of potential for wind power in China. They also concluded that there's more than enough wind to satisfy all of China's electrical needs.
In conclusion, wind power looks like a promising source of renewable energy for China's future. In spite of the few downsides, such as the uncertainty involved because the wind doesn't always blow, the environmental benefits are great, such as reducing CO2 emissions and its long-term cheap price. We believe that, as predicted, China's wind power market will and should grow until it can support a large portion of the country's energy needs, and maybe one day, all of its energy needs.
I think I was always misunderstood. People just didn't seem to like me. I think I annoyed them. I got on their nerves. I don't know why. Yeah, I was too intense. Maybe I came on too strong. I don't know. I really can't say. Yeah, it was lonely. Really lonely. But you get used to it after a while. And then, one day, everything changed. Somebody finally accepted me for what I am. Since I've got this job, life is completely different. I finally feel useful, good at something.